All righty, folks. Well, good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock and let's get started. So welcome to another offering of the Kansas Association of Counties. My name is Bruce Cladney, and I'd like to welcome you all to this offering that we're doing in partnership with the Governor's Recovery Office. As you well know, we're knee-deep in the recovery process, and there's getting ready to have a fairly large sum of money head out to the counties, and this is the first offering of a webinar to help you folks get the tools and the experiences and the resources that you need to manage some of that money. Like I said, my name is Bruce Cladney, and I'm the Executive Director for the Kansas Association of Counties. And if I could have everybody go ahead and mute your microphones if we could. That would be great, so we can do that. Let's see here. All right, so hopefully we can keep everybody muted. As we get into the program this afternoon, make sure that if you have questions that you type them into the chat box. We capture all those questions and we are tracking them, answering them, and then putting them into a frequently asked questions document that we can then make available to you all. So that way you can see what questions were asked and the answers that were given to those questions. So please use that as your way of communicating with us. Type in a question, we'll get that answered. Also, we are recording this offering as we do all the offerings, and we'll make it available on our website, the Kansas Association of Counties website. So go there. If it's not there later on this afternoon, it'll definitely be there first thing in the morning tomorrow. Go ahead, and if you are not the right person to be watching this video, or if you need somebody else to see this video, please share the link with them because as we get into this and start learning about how to handle all this money and how to track it and how to report and things like that, this is going to be great information that you're going to want to share with others if you're not the one that's going to be doing all that work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Recovery Office and let them take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, Bruce. I appreciate it. We just want to thank you all for being here today. And we apologize and we appreciate all of your patience with us. It's been a little bit of a struggle trying to take all the incoming guidance that the feds have been giving us and creating the most updated reporting template we can to provide for you guys. Really what we tried to do here was create a reimbursement report, which is the first report you will submit, that gives you the resource to track these expenditures appropriately, but not make it too burdensome within the county. So we're walking that fine line here, and this is really just to support you guys. So Vijay, if you want to share your screen.
Bruce, can you please allow us to screen share? I think
yes, I'm trying to do that. There we go. I couldn't get the right button. Sorry about that, guys. There you go. Okay. There we go. Couldn't find the right button.
Okay, and we will provide you guys as well with this PowerPoint. This PowerPoint is just an overview of the reporting template that we will provide you as well. But this is just going to be a general summary. So here's the agenda for today. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through step by step what is in this reimbursement reporting template. So we'll do a template overview and kind of generally define what each tab will have, and then we'll go through each tab of the Excel sheet, which is the reporting template, to provide you guys with further information. As I said before, we really do appreciate your guys' patience. The federal government has been slowly rolling out more and more guidance for how to report and also what qualifies. So we did have this ready for you last Thursday, but then at 2:30 they issued more information on how to report, so we had to make some corrections. So thank you for your patience. We'll go on to the template overview now. Okay. So what this template is it breaks down just into a itemized report of your previous reimbursement expenditures. So this is money already spent, and it'll be recorded line item by line item. So what you're going to do is there is a tab with the report summary that will conclude all of the expenditures and transfers made to subrecipients from the county. That's just a general overview of what's within this report. So that first page will be done last by the authorized signer that your primary county contact designated. If you have not designated a signer, we can send around the link for that as well. But that person is responsible for reviewing the report, making sure that everything is filled out correctly, and making sure that all the subrecipient reports are compiled as well. So within this report, there's a few different things, but what I want to stress first is that the county will be recording transfers and expenditures. So expenditures are direct reimbursements that were incurred by the county for COVID-related expenses. We will later review the federal guidance and what qualifies for a federal for the reimbursement, but that will be recorded as a reimbursement from the county. Any money that you transfer to subrecipients, for example, a school district or any other public-private entity, you will record that amount of the transfer and who is transferred to. Then that transfer, whoever you give it to, is responsible for recording their own report. So we have an exact template of this Excel sheet that you will provide to all subrecipients of funds, and they will have to then record and report their own itemized expenditures. Once it is the end of the reporting period, they will submit those reports back to the county, and the county will compile all the reports into one, and those subrecipient reports will be on separate tabs, and it allows us and you all to see where and how the money is being spent, and us to track that accordingly. So going on, if you go back just for a second, Vijay. So those are the two separate types of expenditures that you will note. Further on, as we go down, I will speak a little bit more about this, but there's an expenditure category and subcategory. These categories were provided last Thursday by the federal government of general, buckets in which the funds can be placed. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but that also gives you guys a little bit of an idea to see, what this money can be spent on. And it also allows your sub-recipients to be thinking about what qualifies for this money. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And just to clarify, so if you did transfer, if the county transferred money to a locality or a city, they are responsible for recording and then reporting back to you their individual expenditures for that transfer. So you, on your report, you just say that you transferred $50,000 to a city. That city then is the subrecipient, and they must report a subrecipient report to you that says what they spent those funds on. So you are not responsible for doing the ledger on their individual expenditures. They are responsible, and that is in their hands. Okay. And just to let you guys know, I know that Shelby and Vijay are going to be trying to answer questions on the chat, but anything that we do not get answered, we're going to release just formatted Q&A on this exact finance plan. So you guys will have all that written down as well. Okay, this speaks a little bit more about the subrecipient report that I just spoke about. Subrecipients are responsible for recording it, but the county is responsible for compiling them all. Then in this template, we also have additional resources. We have an example of how to report in the Excel format that we provide. And then we have an example of the expenditure categories and subcategories. Just because an expenditure is not specifically listed in these categories does not mean that it's not eligible, but these are just the categories that were provided to us from the federal government. There is an other category that you can put expenditures in for COVID-related costs, but these will be reviewed and audited by the recovery office. Okay. So here's just a brief overview of federal guidance. As I mentioned before, we've been getting this somewhat frequently, and we still expect to be getting more down the road. That is why this first reporting template is simply for your reimbursements. Once you fill out your direct aid plan, that will be due on the 15th. We will provide an updated template that's going to be very similar to this one, but will then have the necessary parts that you can report those direct aid expenditures. So just to overview, and we will have all the federal guidance compiled and put on our website so you can find that all in one place. This is just kind of what qualifies for the funds. This was the first guidance that was released. A key part of this is that payroll costs for employees can be used for CRF if that employee has been transferred or moved over from their normal position to a COVID-related position. Additionally, what this says is that all of the if they are not eligible, if the reimbursements or any of the expenditures are not eligible to the federal requirements, that then it is on those who spent the expenditure to then repay the federal government. So we just need to keep in mind that this is so critical for us to explain why this cost is COVID related and how so. So a key part of this also is that we're providing this template so that we can cover ourselves and the county as well when we get audited, because it's not an if we get audited, it is when we get audited. Everyone's going to know where every penny goes. So this is providing, it's easier to do the work now than in a year or so going back and trying to get all this information together. So the next one further clarifies what can be included in reimbursements. So anything incurred due to public health emergency, costs that were not accounted for in your budget previous, and then any costs during March 1 to the end of 2020. It also includes a list of eligible and ineligible expenses, but like I said, this list is not the only things that can qualify. There is an other column that will be audited and evaluated depending on what the use was. So if we want to go to the next one. This was what was released last Thursday. It provided our expenditure categories, which I will review further later on, but it also required that the primary recipients and the subrecipients of these CRF funds must retain receipts of all those expenditures for at least 5 years. So this is going to be a little bit fun for us, but what it further clarifies is what the expenditure has to be. Is it necessary and incurred due to the public health emergency? It wasn't previously accounted for in the budget, and it's within that March 1 to December 30, 20 deadline. As we are going to expect you guys to maintain the records for subrecipients of your funds, but we will have a recommendation on how to file and keep up with those electronic records, and that will be provided here at a later date. Okay. So the reporting timeline. This is when your county reports will be due. They will be submitted through a portal that we have on covid.ks.gov. That portal is also where you can submit questions you might have on guidance interpretations. So if there's a a grant program or a transfer you'd like to make at your county level, but you're not sure if it qualifies, we have a form on covid.ks.gov that you can fill out. It must be filled out by your primary county contact and submitted through that portal, and we will then issue guidance and a formal opinion. All formal opinions made will be published on the website as well, so that other counties can see what decisions have been made on what qualifies and what does not qualify. We will have an attorney in the recovery office that will do those decisions and make those decisions. So this reporting due date shows the date that it's due, the reporting period, and then what is included in that application or report. So the first report is due on August 15th, and it's for any reimbursements from that you would like to qualify from the county level, or any subrecipients, any transfers of money that you provided to local governments or schools. Those can be reimbursed as long as you file them accordingly into the Excel sheet. It will go through the end of July, so you will have 15 days to compile your report, as well as make sure that all of your subrecipients turn in their appropriate reports. On August 15th, your direct aid plans, which will be due, and Vijay will be talking to you guys tomorrow about those direct aid plans. The next deadline here will be on September 10th, and it is for only the month of August. And those funds that were not allocated in the direct aid plan and were not reimbursed, any leftover funds that do not have a specific allocation will be returned to the state to then be reallocated in another way. Further down, it just shows you the other reporting deadlines. You will have a little bit more time to submit your December report. We're going to allow you guys to have a little bit of flexibility because it will be due on March 1st. And then a final and complete report of all of the expenditures will be due September 1st, 21, because the federal government requires the state to submit their complete report later in September of 21. Okay, so this is a recommended timeline that you can provide to your subrecipients. We're not mandating this, but we're providing this as a resource to you to kind of plan ahead, because you will be responsible of compiling those subrecipient reports and reviewing them before submitting them to us. We want one complete county report. We don't want a report from your county and then a city, and then we want it all in one cohesive document. So this is a timeline that provides you guys, it's like 3 to 4 days prior to when your report is due to us. We recommend that you make subrecipients turn that in early so you can look them over. So that's just what this recommended timeline is. Feel free to alter it or make it earlier, whatever you need to do, but this is just a resource for you. So this, as I discussed earlier, this is the report summary tab that will be filled out by your designated signer. It's just a brief overview of what is in the report, the reporting period. Cash on hand at the beginning is going to be how much money you received from the CRF. Total reimbursements, so how much completely from those subrecipients and from your own report you are asking for. Total transfers to subrecipients, and then you're going to subtract those two reimbursement and transfer numbers from the total number you received, and that will get your cash on hand at the close of the period. And then we have general contact information on the summary page. Okay, so the reimbursement report template is going to be an Excel sheet. This is all within an Excel sheet. And these are the fields in which expenditures must be listed as. So all these fields are mandatory when reporting and expenditure or reimbursement. I'm going to share now the template so you can see what this looks like on our, you stopped sharing it? Okay. Let me see here. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, can you see it, Vijay?
Yeah.
Great. So this is, as you saw in the previous slide, was just a list of those categories, but this is what the report template will look like. It is each expenditure type, like I mentioned previously, you're going to either qualify as a reimbursement or a transfer. And then you go through and just simply fill out each line item with the appropriate information. We have payment method drop down here, so you can choose which way the payment was made, voucher invoice number, check or advice number, expenditure category, which we will go through, but it's a drop down and you can choose based on those federal categories that were provided, what qualifies, and then based on what expenditure category you choose, the appropriate subcategories will pop up. You'll do the receiving entity tax ID, the goods and services recipient. This is just in case, for example, a group or entity benefiting from the purchase. For example, if a city bought laptops for a school in the city, the school is the beneficiary, though the receiving entity will be Dell because that's who you're making the purchase to. So we just want to make sure that if the beneficiary or the recipient is the school, that is noted, even though the expenditure was made to the company. If it's a project, you're going to provide the project name and description, and then the contact person for the appropriate expenditure. If this expenditure was made at the county level, you provide the primary contact information. If it was a transfer, you will provide the contact information for the primary person of that subrecipient. And this is the exact template that subrecipients will fill out as well. Subrecipients, all you have to do is just add another tab here. You'll copy the exact template and just input it into one Excel sheet. So each subrecipient, you will label it the subrecipient name, and then it will be expenditure report. Okay, Vijay, if you want to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint now, I'll stop sharing. So this is the expenditure categories that were provided in the Treasury guidance that was issued last Thursday. We have transfers to other governments, payroll for public health and safety employees, budgeted personnel and services diverted to a substantially different use, improvements to telework capabilities of public employees, medical expenses, public health expenses, distance learning, economic support, expenses associated with issuance of tax anticipation notes, and then all items not listed. So what we did then is we kind of compiled a table that's a resource for you guys to see this better. I'm gonna take it back from you now, Vijay. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is in your template as well. Each category that we're going through, this is all in the expenditure template. What we've overviewed is all in one place. We just wanted to break it down a little bit better in this PowerPoint. So the expenditure categories up here that were provided by the federal government are all in this dark blue. That's going to be how you first distinguish what the type of expenditure is. After that, the subcategories follow down within the columns. These are types of expenditures that can be made within distance learning. For example, counseling and mentorship. Just because, you know, a expenditure subcategory doesn't fit exactly to your expenditure, that's okay. And all other, there is still that all items not listed that you can categorize things to. So you guys will have this as a kind of a reference of what you can and cannot make reimbursement requests for at this time. Okay. So this is, I'm just going to walk through the Excel sheet so you are familiar with that. Like I said, it's everything that's on these slides. We did the overview. This is just so you guys have this information. We will have all this online as well as the federal guidance compiled in one spot for you. That's going to be the resources overview tab that just gives you a description of what is in this template as well as the reporting timelines. We also have an example here on how you should report those line item reimbursement requests. And you can see that even if it's a monthly reoccurring expense, you need to still have it an individualized line item each time. Here's the expenditure table that will provide you with that additional information. And then you will have the reimbursement receipts report that you will submit on August 15th. And this is the exact template that subrecipients will send out. Once you get subrecipients reports, you will copy that into an additional tab, and you will have a different tab for each subrecipient report that you receive. Finally, you will fill out your report summary. That just has your generic county information, and then a conclusive report of what you are submitting in this request. Okay, Shelby or Vijay, what am I missing, or is there anything else you would like to add? I know that Vijay and Shelby have been trying to go through here and answer some questions. And like I said, we'll go through and we'll download all the questions from the chat, and we will then send it out through KAC. Bruce, I don't know if you have any specific questions that you've seen that were common throughout this chat that I can answer quickly right now.
No, Taylor, I have not seen anything that that Vijay and Shelby haven't been handling. So
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Hopefully people can hear me. So the one question that I think I just want to clarify for folks is that the direct aid plan that you're getting is simply a planning document, and we'll go through this very clearly tomorrow, but it is just a way for you to organize and communicate to the SPARK committee and the State Finance Council and the recovery office what you're planning on spending the money on. The spreadsheet that Taylor outlined for this period will just be for reimbursements, but moving forward, we'll give you another version of it where you'll track all of your expenditures every month. So you're basically telling us for that month, here's what I spent money on. And that should line up with what you said you were going to spend money on through your direct aid plan. But I know there's been a lot of questions about what if there's unforeseen circumstances, I have to spend money on something. That's okay. The direct aid plan is just a way for us to get an understanding of what the county is spending their money on. And if there needs to be an additional different type of expense, something comes up, that's okay. But beyond the time that you submit the direct aid plan on the 15th, everything will be done through the expenditure and reporting document that Taylor's gone through. So you'll just tell us every month what you spent. I just want to make that pretty clear.
And we spoke about this a little bit on the first webinar, but I just want to reiterate, we spoke with our grants office about what is the typical amount that is used on administrative costs in situations like this. And of the money that you were receiving, typically about 5% can be used on admin costs. What we would recommend is that with this money, you look into hiring a CPA or some other compliance or accounting firm to help do this report. Like I've stressed before, what we really need you guys at the county level to do is we need your insight on what your county needs and what policies need to be implemented. We don't want to bog you down with these reporting requirements. This can be done and can easily be done by someone else and can be used and can be paid for through that CRF fund. And I think that KAC is looking at some people that can help you guys out with that.
Yes, that's right, Taylor. In fact, I was going to mention that when we wrapped things up, that that if you are in one of those counties that needs help, and we certainly would encourage you to do this, reach out to us. We've been in contact with a few accountants, some folks that we have worked with, and they have expressed some interest in being able to help us with this project. So if you don't already have somebody lined up and you're kind of struggling, well, who do we use? Reach out to us here at the KAC and we can put you in contact with a few folks that we think is going to be able to step up and help us out in this project, because this certainly is definitely one of those all hands on deck type of situations, that's for sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Shelby Conkle with the Recovery Office as well. I would add, just based on some of the questions that I've seen in the chat, that this round, this initial reimbursement round, if you think back to the last webinar that we did and the toolkit that we provided, the recommendation for the initial expenses prior to the toolkit, prior to the direct aid plan being submitted, is just for reimbursements of expenditures that you've already incurred or that public institutions or entities within your jurisdictions have already incurred. So you think through it, it's the costs for potential personnel, if you've got designated personnel costs, or the cost for additional PPE that you've incurred, the FEMA, your portion or already incurred FEMA portion of the FEMA match, for example, or let's say you had to get plexiglass in to help, in some of your buildings, those sorts of expenditures that you've made to address or respond to COVID-19 is the first kind of round. So then so kind of making the institutions whole, then what money is left over for future expenses and for any additional programs that you might want to do to help prepare in the fall. And those additional programs and additional expenses are what will be detailed in the direct aid plan. And we'll have the webinar tomorrow to go over what will be included in the direct aid plan as well. So this is kind of a bridge between the toolkit, if you remember last week, or I believe it was actually 2 weeks ago, we provided. And so if you haven't yet had a chance to look at that, I would encourage you all to look at that and the resources that accompanied it as well.
I think that is all that we have right now. We will make this all available on our website, and I know that KAC is posting it as well on theirs. And we will look through your questions. I just saved all the questions from the chat, and we'll go through and start answering those and get a FAQ out as soon as we possibly can.
All righty, guys. Before everybody departs, I want to again thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Taylor and Shelby and Vijay, we certainly do appreciate all the time and your efforts, and thank you for working with us here, both at the county level and with the association. As Taylor was saying, we do have this recorded. It will be posted here in the next couple of hours, hopefully, And if you're not the right person to be watching this, make sure you send the link to the right person so they can get on board and take a look and see what all the resources that are coming out when it comes to the reporting and things like that. Also, for those of you that are on that have not had your governing body pass a resolution yet, make sure that you do. I believe I've seen an email that there are 16 counties out there that have not passed resolutions yet. And so if you are one of those counties, please step up and be an advocate that gets done. And if you need help getting that done, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself, Jay in our office, or the recovery office. And we certainly will do all we can to help you folks advocate to get that done. If there's a particular reason why it hasn't been done yet, let us know, and hopefully we can help you overcome that reason. And then also be on the lookout as the toolkit gets developed. I know Jay in my office, in our office, as well as the League of Municipalities, have put together a template that you can use to pass out to the subrecipients, as Taylor was talking about, subrecipients, the city levels, the school districts, and other people like that. We've got a sample template that you can use to share with them. That way they sign on and they're responsible for the funds that you give to them. So make sure you look for that, as well as all sorts of other resources that are starting to appear in that toolkit. So with that, folks, we're going to draw this session to a close. As Taylor had said, tomorrow we have another Zoom webinar set up for 10 o'clock in the morning. You should have the same announcement that got you onto this Zoom meeting today. Will get you onto the Zoom meeting tomorrow. There's different links, but it's the same announcement. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, or send that to the right person that needs to be watching tomorrow, where we talk a little bit more about the toolkit and the expectations. And then also posted on the website are the schedules. We've got Zoom meetings planned for every Friday from now to the end of August. So hopefully they're going to be very productive. They're going to be dependent on what you folks need. They're going to be responsive. We're going to be doing answers to questions that you ask. We're going to be highlighting programs that folks are doing successfully to kind of give you some ideas of things that might be done in your own communities. So we hope that we have good attendance on all of those, and definitely be on the lookout for the frequently asked questions. And if you do have a question that we could address, please send that in. And if you do have a success story that you think other people might benefit from, please send that in to us as well. And that way we can highlight it and make sure that other counties know what's going on across the state. So folks, with that, I wish you a very good afternoon. And once again, thank you for joining us. And I look forward to continuing to work with you all. And we'll see hopefully some of you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So have a good rest of the afternoon.